Hey there folks, Jason here again, and I've got a quick bolt action update. And if you remember last week, last video, I'm not sure exactly when the last time was I did it, but I said I was going to work on my veteran panzergrenadiers. Unfortunately, other than doing a little bit of base coating, and you know what, maybe this is... so they are base coated, and this is an opportunity. Quick segue here. This was off script because I did some other work this week. I did not do any work on the panzergrenadiers because I kind of ran out of time. As I mentioned, I had a lot of stuff going on with my son this week, with his Cub Scouts and Pinewood Derby and things like that. So I didn't get anywhere near as much work done on the figures themselves. I'm kind of having a hard time slogging through figures anyways. A hard time personally slogging through figures. So all I really had time to do was base coat them, and I've used actually a product on a number of occasions, and I haven't mentioned it, and this is now a good time I think to do so. I have been base coating, extreme zoom, with let's see if that'll focus. Plastic Soldier Company. Their Army Sprays, World War II Infantry, and this is the German. I forget what the exact color is. German Field Gray. And I've been doing the base coating with that and then just doing the highlights right on top of it. And it's actually worked out really well. So this will be an impromptu review of this. And then we'll talk about actually what I did get done this week. So I like this product better than the Army Painter various colors of colored primer. Because this one goes on a little bit lighter. The Army Painter, I think if you're not careful, it can really kind of fill in all the details in your models, and I wouldn't say that this one is as good as, in terms of like thin coverage, isn't as good as like GW's Chaos Black, which I know everybody thinks it's overpriced, but it works really well in terms of just easy coverage. Thin stuff doesn't block anything. If you looked at it from like that being the best, and in my experience, Army Painter being the worst in terms of colored primers, like paints this specifically for painting miniatures, I think the Plastic Soldier Company is much more in the GW realm. It does a good coverage. You've seen some of my other models. I think it ends up looking good. It doesn't gum things up. You can kind of put it on with even coats. It isn't as finicky. The can doesn't spit, kind of like sometimes some of the Army Painters will. So there you go, an impromptu figure painting review or product review of Plastic Soldier Company's German Field Gray. It is a little on the pricey side. It was $15.99 at my local gaming store, and I think it's worth it. I might be able to get through a whole can because I'm just using it on the soldiers, the figures, the infantry itself, sorry, and my airbrush on the vehicles and other things. That's primarily just for ease sake. I don't have to crank up the airbrush every time I want to do a base coat. This works really well right out of the can, literally, and allows me to save a little bit of time. So there you go. You got a little informal, quick turnaround review there. I highly recommend it if you can get a hold of it. I have probably primed 15-20 models, and I bet you I'm not even through a quarter of the can yet. So if that gives you some sense on how much usage you can get out of this, highly recommend it. Army Plastic Soldier, Army Sprays, World War II Infantry, German Field Gray. Can't speak to the other ones. But I digress. What I did get done this week, and I was looking for a bit of a change, and there's some other people out there who have been talking about hobby burnout. And I'm definitely one of those guys that I get frustrated that I'm not making enough progress, which makes me not paint as much, which makes me more, kind of the cruel circle, the cruel cycle. So I was kind of looking around for something different to do. I don't get to play that much at my place, but I always like having nice terrain. I like playing with nice terrain. And so I did a review of Tabletop Workshop a while back. They're medieval houses, which, here's an example. Quick flip that up. It turns out I think the company may have gone out of business. Kind of a bummer. Why aren't you focusing tonight? There we go. So I had this hanging around. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should just do something with this. And the reason I'm kind of lumping this under bolt action is I wanted this, and I figured if I painted it a certain way, it would look kind of bolt action-y too if I really wanted to. I could use it for a 30 Years War, I could use it for medieval, I could use it, you Europeans don't update your architecture all that much. Just kidding. So I was, and as I mentioned, it goes together really quickly. So one night I just said, you know what, I got the replacement part for my fine detail airbrush. Let's just go at it and see what we can do. But I didn't want, and I'm just going to flip this up one more time. So if you see in the paint scheme here that they chose, it's really crisp and clean. And I just don't think that for a war game, if you're in a, whether it's 30 Years War and what is today Germany, kind of got roasted over the coals for a couple of decades, or World War II or whatever, if you're in a war, people probably aren't keeping up their houses, 100%. Things are probably going to start to, you're not going to get out there and whitewash your fences, in other words, in the middle of a war. Or maybe your house is just completely abandoned. So what I decided to do is I wanted to weather up this house a little bit more and play around with some other stuff. So here, I'm going to see if I can zoom. Okay, we are zoomed the whole way out. Oh, man. So this is not... I'm going to pause the video really quick, and we're going to adjust the camera some. There we go. We're back. I elevated the camera a little bit. So this was the house I built, and this one was... I forget the name. Tabletop Workshop. Company went out of business, but it's not the Merchant's House. It's another one. And as you can see here, it's definitely not very clean. I'm not sure how well it's going to show up. I also cheated. I'll talk about more about the paint scheme and what I did. But instead of putting a base on it, I just glued different tufts of clump foliage, different shades together. I tried the lichen. I'm still getting the hang of the lichen. But I wanted this house to look kind of abandoned. And if you remember in the picture, if you don't, so what made it medieval was there were wooden bars in the windows. And that's definitely something that you wouldn't see in a modern house. So I figured if I took those out, that would make it look a lot more modern. Or the potential to be more modern. So you can see here I added the clump foliage. I wanted the house to have an overgrown look. I'm not sure if it's showing up really well. It's hard for me to see in the camera. But I wanted it to have a really dingy look too. So what I did was, and let's see how close I can get zoom here. There we go. So I painted it like a brown color or light kind of a canvas sand color, and then I airbrushed in the middle an off-white, and then I just went over it with Agrax Earthshade is the color. It's like a browny, purpley wash from GW. And then I did a little bit of Camo Shade, which is kind of a greeny brown. I wanted to look a little mildewy, a little moldy, a little weathered. And I think it turned out really well. I also added I dry brushed some gray onto the shutters and all the wood to make it look kind of weather-beaten wood. There's wood damage if this thing hasn't been sealed. So I hope that shows up well in the pictures. I'm really pleased with how this turned out. And then the roof, I don't think it's showing up in the pictures all that well. I tried splotches, occasional 2 or 3 splotches of the same shading just to give it some dimension. And then as you can see too, I was worried that it was too dark. So initially I had a lot more leaves on this, but I just threw some fall foliage leaves on there just to offer a bit of a color contrast. And then I put some in the bushes the whole way around as well. And one of the things I mentioned that I liked about this model, it wasn't too expensive, but it does have different levels in it. So you can still take the roof off. And on the inside, what I did is I did the same thing. Let's see if this shows up at all. Hopefully it shows up that it's weathered on the inside. I did finish it. The floors are supposed to look dirty and distressed. But then you can reach in here and pull the floor out. And you've got the basement. And there's some clump foliage in there. Fell through the window. And so you've got the nice wood floor. If you want to have people on different levels, this would be great for bolt action or other kind of skirmishy kind of war games. So this is what I did this weekend. Initially, it started out as many of my projects do, like, oh, I'll just bang this out really quickly, and then 5 or 6 hours later, I'm airbrushing still, and it takes me a while. I'm really pleased with how this came out. The kit went together super easily. I debated keeping it separated, but for ease's sake, I don't think I'm going to transport this all that much. So this is what I took care of this week, and this is something I finished, and this is something I can just put on the shelf and be like, oh, I got a piece of terrain done. And I think it looks really good. I like how the foliage looks here. It looks really kind of overgrown, but it's something I think can still be used in particularly bolt action or something like that, when you can still see out the windows, but you can tell nobody's been pruning back the bushes at all. So really pleased with this. This was I'm going to call this my bolt action offering of the week, because I didn't get through any of the panzergrenadiers and didn't really feel like it. You know, I don't have to do something if I'm not feeling it. While I was watching the Super Bowl and some other things last night, I also got out another kit that I picked up, and I'm going to only do this after I finish up the panzergrenadiers. If I can get 10 of those guys done. I picked up the I can zoom in, come back in now. So this is Warlord Games' Puma armored car, and I have to say, I didn't glue the wheels on yet, but this was one of the most complicated kits I've ever had to put together, just in terms of pieces. If you can look here, ooh, there we go. Like, the suspension looks awesome, but it is like a billion different pieces, and there's other reviews out there on this. It's a great figure, though, or a great model. So I will paint this one up after I finish up all 10 of these guys. And actually, this drives me nuts because you can tell the scale difference between the two. So that's the Warlord, the Bolt Action summary for the week. Kind of cheated a little bit, but dems the brakes. And you can take back your money if you don't like the video. I kid. So hopefully we'll make more progress this week. I got a busy week this week too. My minimum goal is to try to get at least 5 models finished. 5 of the panzergrenadiers finished for next week. So I hope you guys had a great weekend. I hope you're getting some cool wargaming or modeling or whatever else in, and I will talk to you soon.